first shot.
Yeah. Okay. I hope I can answer your questions accurately.
Congratulations on your presentation for your beautiful sculpture today.
Thank you very much.
How did you hear and finally get to know about Solitaire?
Well, I was doing an English series called The Aeneid Line, and the first episode came out, and my agent called me and said that the producers of James Bond had seen it and they wanted to meet me to play the role. And my agent said I wasn't available because I wasn't. I was doing this TV show. So then the following week, another episode came out, and another producer from James Bond called, and my agent said, look, you might as well meet them because they make other films, so, you know, even though you can't do this one. And I went to meet them, and they immediately offered me the role. I had a fur hat on, with my hair all up. I took the fur hat off, my hair came tumbling down. In those days I sat on it, and then I've never forgotten, the two producers had a big argument about who had seen me first, and like a schoolgirl I went, excuse me, you both saw me at the same time because I was on television. Silly answer. Anyway, they offered it the part to me then and there. I was so shocked that I bumped my car back into the producer's Rolls Royce, a little Volkswagen.
Oh, no.
I drove to my agent, and my agent said, at the moment you can't do it, you're not available, but we're hoping that the people that have you in a TV show will realize that if they let you off to do the James Bond film, that they will forever be famous for being the people that helped make you become a James Bond girl. So I got really lucky. They decided overnight that they could let me out, and so I got to be a Bond girl.
Cool. Was it scary or exciting when you were who and got the part of Solitaire?
It was pretty scary because, first of all, I wasn't allowed to tell anyone for about 2.5 weeks. Secondly, they had a photographer spend a lot of time with me taking very sexy photographs, which I wasn't very comfortable with, and making up some sort of story about who I really was, because I was very boring, so they were trying to make up silly stories. He said something like, I love to run through, you know, with very few clothes on through long grass, and I'm like, what? I never said that. But so it was my first experience of people trying to make me into something that I wasn't, and I think that's why to this day being authentic and being true to myself is very important. But yeah, it was scary at first, especially the thing with the snake.
What was your favorite scene you working with that?
My favorite what?
Scene.
Scene? My favorite scene. I think I liked the one here, the voodoo scene.
Oh.
I think that was one of my favorite scenes. Because I used to be a dancer, and I used to, in my spare time, go and practice with all the dancers, you know, who were in the voodoo scene. And Jeffrey Holder, who played Baron Samby, knew I was a dancer, so he choreographed that I'd come in, you know, lying on my back, and everyone was holding me, which I could only have done if I'd been a dancer, because otherwise I would have fallen down. I just knew how to be that way, and so that was a personal fun thing. But then that was immediately followed by my scariest moment, which was when the guy holding the snake got a bit comfortable with doing it, so he put the snake in his other hand, and the snake turned around and bit him, and he went like that, and the snake fell on the ground. He cried, ran away, and I was tied up, and the snake was coming straight at me. And the people who owned the snake were really upset, and at the very last second they picked up the snake, and they said the snake was going to die because the guy who was bitten should have let the snake stay with his fangs in his hand, and they would have extricated it. Like, really? Like, anyone's going to, like, sit around with a snake with the fangs? Because the fangs broke, the snake apparently did die not long after the movie.
Do you ever watch them when they die now if you see it on TV?
I do. I watch it and I go, oh my gosh, you know, I can't believe how young I was. And I remember when I watch myself on television or in movies, I remember what was happening that day, which is kind of weird. I suddenly remember, what was going on behind the scenes at that time.
Yeah.
I had a lot of trouble doing the cards. The director was a card sharp, and he knew how to, you know, do that with cards, and I took forever trying to figure out how to shuffle those cards. I never got it right.
Where did they have their premiere of Live and Let Die, the Red Coconut?
They had the premiere in London at the Odeon, Leicester Square, and they had another sort of screening earlier that day where my parents were allowed to come, and it was very, very exciting, but they couldn't come to the actual premiere because there wasn't enough seats. But they were there in the crowd, and they saw me being presented to the royal family and all of that. And I remember looking at all these millions of people, and I just saw one person, and that was my father, and he was just pretending not to be there and just going, he was very proud. And I just thought, who cares about all these people? All I care about is what my dad and my mom thought. And then at the end of the premiere, everyone went off to a big party, and my car didn't show up, so I was the last one to leave. But just before I left, I got this little tap on my back, and this guy said, just wanted to tell you I thought you were wonderful. And that was Paul McCartney.
Oh, wow.
And you don't even know how important the Beatles were, but in my time, the Beatles were it. There was nothing greater than the Beatles. And for a Beatle to touch me and talk to me personally, that was it. That was the biggest moment of my life. And so that was much more important to me than the entire premiere.
Did you actually have to learn how to read tarot cards, or had you ever seen them before?
I had never seen them before. I knew nothing about tarot cards. I did have to learn. They showed me how. Of course, I didn't really have to, because it was a joke what we were doing, really, because it was rigged. But I did learn about it, and actually I went and had my tarot cards read in New Orleans when I was there. I took all my rings off and pretended not to be married, and nobody actually knew who I was in those days, so I could get away with it. And I had my tarot cards read.
And was she accurate, or?
Well, I was told I was going to be married 3 times, which did not go down well with me because I'd only just got married for the first time, and that was a pretty horrible thing to think. So I did everything I could to stay married, and sadly, the count was wrong. I've already, unfortunately, been married and divorced 4 times. So I didn't know whether I got married the second time briefly just to get rid of it so I could have a proper marriage. And then things went horribly wrong there too. So anyway, I'm here to tell the tale.
What was it like being a famous Bond girl and have so many fans?
It was very daunting, very exciting. I didn't really know what it meant, and I still think it's crazy that now, 45 years after I made that film, people still stop me in the street and say, "Oh, you're Solitaire." So it's crazy. All over the world, people know who I am still, from a movie I made 45 years ago. So that is pretty crazy. But people love James Bond, and at the time, I wanted to be a serious actress. I didn't really want to do that kind of movie, but I'm very grateful that I did, because thanks to that movie, other people got to see me, and I got the opportunity to play some of the roles I, really wanted to play.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Are your kids James Bond fans?
My kids are definitely James Bond fans, very much so. Yes, and I think they're pretty proud of that. And I keep trying to think of which their favorite movies that I've done, but I think Bond would be up there.
What do they think about the mom being a Bond girl?
They're pretty proud of me, I think, but they just think of me as mom. They don't really think of me as an actress. It's just other people behave differently towards me, but as far as they're concerned, I'm mom, and what am I having for dinner, and why do I have to do my homework now, and why do you keep checking up on me, and that I'm just a mom, okay, to them, to my kids. But they have been with me on films, and they have been with me to premieres, and they know what happens. And I think they get teased at school a lot, or they have been teased a lot for having a mom who's a Bond girl.
That's kind of sad, but...
Yeah, it was hard for them when they were younger, but now they don't care.
Do you live in England?
No, I live in America. I've lived in America since 1976. I live in a place called Malibu, California, and I'm trying to remember which Bond. Pierce Brosnan is a very good friend of mine, and he lives there in Malibu as well. So I see that Bond all the time. I met Daniel Craig, And he apparently said I was his favorite Bond girl. Did you know that? Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I asked him, I saw him, and I said, really? And he went, yep. And so he took a picture with me, which was really nice. So I like Daniel a lot. And Barbara Broccoli, who makes the Bond films, is a really good friend of mine too. And I've known her since she was a little kid, because when I was a Bond girl, her father invited me to his house, and Barbara was having a children's birthday party at the time, and asked if I'd come and say hello to the children. She was one of the children.
Yeah, I met Daniel Craig too on this whole premiere of the red carpet and everything. So, yeah, he said that Daniel Craig also said that Looking at That was the very first Bond movie we watched before.
How did you get involved in James Bond? What made you become so obsessed with it?
I just became such a James Bond expert. I kept playing this trivia game, and James Bond kept doing that. I'm guessing Sir Roger Moore might be your favorite James Bond, but do you have a second favorite James Bond?
Oh gosh, it's so hard. It's so hard. I think that each James Bond was brilliant for the time that they were Bond. At the time that I worked with Roger Moore, he was a perfect James Bond. It was very much more a tongue-in-cheek kind of. I mean, it had adventure, obviously, and it had stunts, which were amazing. But the contemporary James Bond, Daniel Craig, is a bit more like Bourne Identity and things like that. I think it's each Bond is right for their era. I thought Pierce was really good, but Daniel Craig, obviously, yes. I would say he's my second.
He's my favorite.
Your favorite?
Yeah. I have just spent some time with David Copperfield in Las Vegas, and he was also a big Bond fan. David is such a fan that he had Jeffrey Holder from Live and Let Die on his voice for his answering machine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know David Copperfield. I did one of his tricks with him, with my children once. He made us disappear in the Great Train, the Orient Express.
Yes.
Yes, I was in that train with my kids. I don't know how I disappeared, but I did.
Wow.
I didn't permanently disappear. But no, I got to spend 4 days with David Copperfield filming and watching him do all his tricks. And some of them he did like 300 times. So by the time he did it 300 times, I kind of figured out what the trick was. But we had to sign, things saying that we didn't know. But my kids got magic lessons as well. They were in the show with me.
Yeah. I also went to David Copperfield and I saw his secret little warehouse, all the cool secret hidden magic things.
Oh, really?
Like he had like a whole bunch of Houdini posters and.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Because he's got like a huge warehouse, hasn't he? Or...
Yes.
Yes, I know. He told me about that. I actually saw him not that long ago, and I saw him after the show, and he asked me to come and maybe help him with something. But he's a cool guy.
Very cool. Yeah.
How old are you, if I may ask?
9.
You're 9. Wow. And what are you going to be when you grow up?
An architect.
A what?
An architect.
An architect.
Yeah.
Ah, very cool. Do you like drawing?
I love drawing, yeah. How long do you think you're going to be doing more art or?
Do more art?
Yeah.
I will hopefully do art as long as I can use my hands. I love it. I just do it for me. And I keep coming up with new ideas, new concepts, and no, I hope I'll always do art.
I hope I will too. Your art's very beautiful.
Thank you very much. Did you understand? Did you know the story of the open heart?
Yeah.
What does it mean to you? What do you think? To your generation? Putting you on the spot there, that's a bit mean. Do you think it that people your age are interested in helping other people?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, they don't give up, they don't think that the world is such a big place and things are too difficult. I'm hoping that this sculpture will remind people of all ages that a random act of kindness can go a long way.
Pictures from that side.
Like poor people can come a long way, right? Like also donations and all that people are doing, right?
Well, we have a foundation actually called the Open Hearts Foundation, and you can go online and see what we do. And we find people who've been making a huge difference to people, having gone through something tough in their lives. And sometimes it's kids who make a big difference. And then we tell their story and show their charity, and people donate.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was sad to hear that Jeffrey had passed away 2 years ago. Did you get to know Jeffrey at all?
I knew Jeffrey very well. Yes, no, I'm really sad about that. In fact, he designed my wedding dress and gave it to me as a gift many, many years ago. I knew Jeffrey really well. And he was a really good painter too, so I have some of his paintings.
Did?
He was an artist.
Oh, that's awesome. Was he kind of scary to meet when you first met him? Or?
No, but he was very big, very tall. Actually, he was a dancer, a very famous dancer and choreographer. And one day, on a day off, we were in Jamaica and we borrowed our costumes and we went on the beach and we did like a ballet, like a dance on the beach of how we imagined Baron Samedi and Solitaire would be, which was never in the movie. It was just the two of us being artists, and we were kind of frustrated with the movie, to be honest. So we thought we'd make our own little image. And pretty much every poster of Live and Let Die has images of me with Jeffrey Holder, and that would never have happened if we hadn't taken a friendly photographer with us, borrowed our costumes and done our own thing. So that's interesting, isn't it? That's a piece of trivia you didn't know. Yes, I'll tell you another piece of trivia about Jeffrey Holder. Jeffrey Holder was terrified of snakes, terrified. And he refused to do the scene where he had to fall backwards into the coffin of snakes. And they said, don't worry, we're going to get rid of all the snakes, we'll just have rubber snakes. And we can show you they're rubber snakes, not a single live one in there. And still he said, no, I'm so terrified of snakes, I can't do that either, I don't want to do it. And then one day, the royal family came, some members of the royal family came to watch us shooting James Bond. And because the James Bond people wanted Jeffrey to be in the scene, and to do that scene, and they couldn't get him to do it, they decided to have him do that scene when the royal family were there. And so he couldn't say no. Oh, he was in tears, he was so upset. He was so upset, and he did it, and he was just devastated. And afterwards he said, you know, they tricked him into it, and it was not fair, you know. But, you know, he did do it, and they were rubber snakes. But I have to admit, when I saw the real snakes in that thing, I wasn't keen on it. And if you have a phobia for snakes, I think it doesn't matter if it's a rubber one or a real one, you're going to be scared, right?
Yeah. Do you have any questions you want to ask me?
Are you going to write a book?
I might someday, yeah.
Yeah, you might write a book on things you don't know about Bond, you see.
Yeah.
I've given you a whole bunch of stories that nobody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.